Thank you for being here today at our special Board of Directors meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to turn the floor over to our Chief Safety and Readiness Officer, Jamie Johnson, for today's safety contact.
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. So one of the most common incidents that we respond to across the system is a medical emergency. We receive hundreds of calls every year, and we work with the local jurisdictions to respond accordingly. But what should you do if someone becomes ill or injured, collapses or loses consciousness? It could happen here in this room or on a bus, on a platform or anywhere in the system. It needs you or someone else to take control of the situation immediately. That's what's most important. There are 3 steps to have in mind. Metro staff have additional training and actions to complete, but these first steps apply to customers and staff alike. First is to communicate clearly and concisely with those around you. Say out loud what is happening and ask for help. For example, this woman is unconscious. Please, can you help me? Number 2, get professional medical aid to the casualty. Call 911 or even better, delegate that task to an individual. Almost everyone has a phone nowadays. Number 3, treat the situation as the worst case. That could mean cardiac arrest, and if practical, delegate to someone else the task of going to find an automated external defibrillator, commonly known as an AED. In summary, if someone collapses or falls unconscious, have these first 3 steps top of mind. Number 1, take control. Number 2, call 911. Or number 3, get an AED in hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Before we roll call, I'd like to note that we're joined by 2 new principal board members, Leslie Weber, there you are, from Maryland, and Darian Flowers, also down there, okay, from Virginia, who were both officially sworn in on Friday, but will be publicly sworn in today. Since this is our first public meeting of the day, I'll ask our Chief Board Affairs Officer, Jennifer Ellison, to call the roll.
Chair Santos.
Present.
Vice Chair McAndrew.
Present.
Director Rye.
Present.
Director Lowe.
Here.
Director Alcorn.
Here.
Director Weber. Here. And Director Flowers.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Ellison. I'd like to request approval of the agenda. Are there any objections to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. As I noted before, I have the distinct honor of publicly swearing in our 2 new board members this morning. And before we swear them in, I'd like to tell you a little something about each of our new members. So we'll begin with Ms. Weber. So Ms. Weber is an Associate Director of Maryland Government Affairs for Johns Hopkins University. She coordinates the regional legislative agenda at the state level and also directs local government affairs for Johns Hopkins in Howard and Montgomery counties. She joined Hopkins affiliate Suburban Hospital as Executive Vice President of the Suburban Hospital Foundation in 2004 and was also named Senior Vice President of Government and Community Relations in 2008. Prior to coming to Suburban, Ms. Weber had held fundraising and alumni relations positions at Pine Manor College, Georgetown University, American University, and the University of Maryland in College Park. She's also been vice president of Grenzenbach, Glier and Associates, and please forgive my mispronunciation, consulting with clients in independent secondary and higher education museums and healthcare. Leslie's current community engagements include service as the chair of the Government Affairs Committee of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and the treasurer of Montgomery Women. She has previously served as board chair of both the Montgomery County and Greater Bethesda Chambers of Commerce and as a director of the National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities. Leslie has been very much a part of our regional community. Leslie received her BA from the University of Michigan and also holds a master's in public policy from Georgetown University. She's a graduate of Leadership Montgomery program and resides in Bethesda. Welcome, Leslie. Now, a little bit about Mr. Flowers. Darian is currently the Group Vice President of Maritime Policy and Government Affairs at MSC Mediterranean Shipping Company, which has a very beautiful facility in Miami. Prior to joining MSC, his career spanned both the public and private sectors. He previously held positions at 2 global law firms where he specialized in transportation and infrastructure matters. Darian's experience in the private sector also includes his role as head of government relations at a venture-backed, multi-billion-dollar global supply chain and logistics technology company. His public service career spans nearly a decade, during which he held several key positions, including Chairman Roger Wicker's Deputy Policy Director at the U.S. Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, as Senior Advisor to the Undersecretary of Transportation for Policy at the U.S. Department of Transportation, Deering began his Washington, D.C. career in the U.S. Senate, serving on the Senate's Committee of Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs for then subcommittee ranking member Senator Rob Portman, Ohio, and in the personal office of Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana. His academic credentials include a Master of Arts in Transportation Policy, Operations and Logistics from George Mason Scarp School of Policy and Government, where he was a Bryce Harlow Fellow, and a BA in Political Science from Elon University. Additionally, he's a graduate of the Naval Postgraduate School Center for Homeland Defense and Security and the Thomas Sorensen Institute for Political Leadership at the University of Virginia. In the 117th Congress, Deering was selected as a John Stennis Congressional Staff Fellow. Welcome, Deering. Now, if you could each please join me in front to be officially sworn in. We're going to start with Leslie. Take this. Director of this. Okay, here we go. What's it? Yeah. Here we go. All right. So raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Leslie Weber,
I, Leslie Weber,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Maryland,
and Constitution and laws of the State of Maryland,
from which I was appointed as a Principal Director
from which I was appointed as a Principal Director
of the Board of the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority,
of the Board of the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
upon which I am to enter.
upon which I am to enter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You ready?
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. All right, and repeat after me. Okay. I, Darian Flowers,
I, Darian Flowers,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
from which I was appointed as a Principal Director
from which I was appointed as a Principal Director
of the Board of the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority,
of the Board of the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
upon which I am to enter.
upon which I am to enter.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.
So Chair Santos tells me I have a second to say hello to all of you this morning. Thank you for being here. I want to thank the WMATA board and staff for welcoming me over the last few days as we've been getting up to speed. And I hope that Director McAndrew will also please convey my thanks to Governor Moore. I appreciate the opportunity to represent Maryland on this regional board and look forward to helping to ensure its future success. Thank you.
Well, Madam Chair, thank you. I likewise appreciate all of the warm welcome, both from my colleagues now, the fellow directors, as well as the entire Metro team. Thank you. I look forward to working with each of you. I also want to extend a special personal thanks to my parents, Michael and Jackie Flowers, who traveled here to see this ceremonial swearing in, and also for their instilling in me the value of public service from when I was a child. So thank you, Mom and Dad. I also thank my wife and daughter, who couldn't be here, but also support my continued public service in what feels like the growing number of responsibilities that I'm taking on. But I really appreciate it. All of us serve here with the support of our families, so thank you for being here. I likewise thank Governor Youngkin and Secretary Miller for their trust and confidence in me, and looking forward particularly to serving with my colleague Walter Alcorn, who represent the interests of the Commonwealth, that we can deliver a system for all the customers that we deserve, and that is one that is safe, secure, and resilient. Thank you.
Welcome. All right, so now that our new members have been sworn in, I'd like to move approval of the following revisions to the board's committee assignments, which is Mr. Flowers to the Finance and Capital Committee, Ms. Weber to Safety and Operations, and Mr. Alcorn to the Executive Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Alcorn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call on the Chief Board Affairs Officer to administer the vote.
Chair Santos,
Aye.
Vice Chair McAndrew,
Aye.
Director Rye,
Aye.
Director Lowe,
Aye.
Director Alcorn,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
Director Flowers.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion.
Thank you. So with no further business for this special board meeting, we stand adjourned and move right into our Safety and Operations Committee meeting. So Director Alcorn.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Santos. Welcome, everybody, to today's Safety and Operations Committee meeting. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda, and we have the agenda in front of us for approval. Are there any objections or changes by members of the committee to the agenda as presented? Okay, seeing none and hearing none, then the agenda is considered approved. We also have approval of minutes we need to do. We have minutes of our November 6th meeting. Any objections or changes to the minutes as presented? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we'll consider those minutes approved as presented. All right, we have two items on our agenda today. First of all, the committee will receive an update on safety at Metro, which will cover Metro's operational safety, ongoing implementation of Metro's safety management system, and an overview of Metro's crime reduction strategy, including how the strategy has played a role in reducing crime on Metro, and this is a noteworthy thing, to its lowest level in 25 years. So we have a second item on our agenda today. I'm pleased to announce that we're joined by a special guest for our second item, and we're joined by the Acting Administrator, Transportation Security Administration. So Metro's receiving the TSA's Gold Standard Award, which recognizes outstanding performance across 17 separate security action items. So these items evaluate how well a transit agency plans for, manages, and responds to security risks. And this marks the 5th time that Metro has received this recognition, and Metro is the only transit agency to have received this award 5 times. And I got to say, I love good news. So we definitely have a good news item on today's agenda. So it's my honor and pleasure to welcome TSA Administrator Han Nguyen McNeil here to Metro for this presentation. So I'll turn, first of all, turn the floor over to our Deputy General Manager, Andy Off, Chief Safety Officer, Jamie Johnson, and their team to present the safety update.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Good morning. Thank you very much for your time. We regularly provide the board an update on safety. This presentation is going to be in 3 parts. The first by Jordan Holt, who's the Senior Director of Performance, Global Benchmarking and Customer Research. She will explain how Metro is performing compared to our peers across the United States. Then I will take the second part, explaining progress with the maturing of the safety management system. And then lastly, Chief Anzalo from the Metro Transit Police Department will provide an update on public safety and crime in the Metro system. As the Deputy General Manager, Mr. Off is representing operations and infrastructure and is present here to respond to any questions at the end with us. So as you know, in close collaboration with the board, Metro published the revised strategic transformation plan last month. Here are the agency's 3 primary strategic goals and the objectives associated with those goals. You'll be seeing this slide often, as everything we do strives to deliver in these areas. Today, we are focusing on service excellence, and safety is a value for Metro inherent in everything we do. We do not deliver service unless we believe it to be safe. And reliability, convenience, and access are only possible if we create a safe environment for our customers and employees. This presentation specifically provides an update on the priority program, which is entitled Proactive Incident Management, Crime Prevention, and Safety Risk Reduction. And with that, I'll hand it over to Jordan.
Thanks, Jamie. Okay, so benchmarking helps put our performance into context. And we can look at benchmarking in several ways. One way is to look how transit in this region compares to other modes of travel. And when we look at that, we are generally safer than traveling on our region's roads. For example, every year, the Council of Governments sets regional performance targets for both roads as well as transit. Proud that when they did this in December, the targets and the data they looked at for fatalities, transit had 55 times fewer fatalities, and the target reflected that compared to roads. We also have, when you look at serious injuries and fatalities combined, we see that transit is 20 times safer than driving alone. The rest of this presentation is actually going to focus more on peer benchmarking, so how we compare to other transit properties around the world, or actually around the US, sorry. One of the nice opportunities with safety data is that Congress and the Federal Transit Administration have set standards for both performance measures and data collection through the National Transit Database. And so as we strive to be world-class, that's part of our strategic plan. Looking at our peer performance can help us define what that looks like, as well as who we should be talking to and looking to as we want to improve our practices. We do use this data internally to inform our annual target setting process. We're always looking at how we compare to peers to understand kind of the opportunities for improvement, the magnitude of improvement we can be aiming for. And to identify those that we can have targeted conversations with to understand what could we be doing to kind of reach the level that we see you're at. The 8 peers that we're going to be looking at over the next series of slides were chosen because they represent the largest United States cities, so it's a similar operating environment as us, and they operate both bus and rail services. The measures that we're going to be looking at are chosen because they represent the major safety events that we all report to the National Transit Database and set targets for annually. So with that, I'm going to delve into the results. We're going to look mode by mode. Okay, so starting with rail, first I want to orient us to these beautiful graphs. For safety measures, we always want to see lower performance, right? Less is more in safety. So we want to see things closer to the bottom of the graph. The blue line here represents Metro's performance, and the shaded area is the range of our peer performance. And you see we provide results for kind of 5 years. The scale, because we're trying to compare performance across properties of different sizes, we calculate rates. So these are number of events per 10 million vehicle revenue miles. And we chose vehicle revenue miles because that's what FTA asked us to. So we all set targets that way. So that kind of helps you get a sense. So on the rail side, you also see we want the line to be at the bottom or at least halfway below the shaded area. So we see that we're an industry leader in collisions, derailments, and customer injuries. I also forgot to mention, you also see here targets. So I mentioned every year all transit agencies have to set targets for all of these measures. The targets you see here are the ones that we set in our annual 2025 safety management plan. And a blue dot means that we kind of met that target, and an orange dot means we didn't quite meet that target. You don't see a target for derailments. Derailments is not a target for derailments is not part of our agency safety plan or anyone's agency safety plan, but we're always aiming for 0, and we achieved that in 2025. So we're overall kind of an industry leader in collisions, derailments, and customer injuries, and about average on the employee injury side. A note here on customer injuries, you're like, well, you're an industry leader, but you didn't meet your target. What is going on there? Part of target setting is always aiming for continuous improvement. So we're setting targets, aiming to improve over our 3-year historical benchmark or historical performance. So we're always aiming, even if we are a leader, to push ourselves to be better. Okay, I'm going to move on to bus. On bus, The four measures we're looking at are bike and pedestrians injuries, collisions, customer injuries, and employee injuries. Collisions are actually a key driver of all of these measures. They're a measure on themselves, but they also kind of influence the results for our other injury types. And kind of the fact that we operate in regional traffic, kind of not on our own system or own guideway, is one of also the contributing factors to the results you see here. So actually, if you look at kind of the scale on this slide versus the scale on the other slide, you see our rates are always higher for bus, and part of that is on rail, we don't have to deal with only our own trains. So you see that we did see kind of an uptick in bike and pedestrian injuries, customer injuries, and employee injuries in 2025. On the bike and pedestrian side, this was mostly due to an increase in bicycle-related incidents, and these are bikes that are either leaving the designated bike lane or attempting to maneuver around a bus that's parked, and that relates to a collision. So any kind of lane marking or realignment will help this. Overall, looking at bus collisions, they were pretty stable between 2024 and 2025. We look at and calculate about 2/3 of those collisions are non-preventable. On the customer injury side, about 1/3 of customer injuries are collision related, but one of the other main types of customer injuries are those that happen when a driver is doing something defensively to avoid a collision. So why we see that increase in 2025 is an increase in more hard braking events and slips, trips, and falls on board buses that are a result of those events. And then on the employee injury side, we also see that about 70% of employee injuries are collision related. So anything we can do, a strategy always to improve bus reliability is to invest in bus priority or bus only lanes. That will also help safety. Anything we can do to give kind of buses their own right of way will also improve all of the measures related here. Finally, closing out with Metro Access, we look at collisions and customer injuries. In both of these cases, we are better than the peer average. Although like bus, our Metro Access vehicles also operate on our regional roads. So what's behind those upticks that you see in 2025 are, again, collisions. So we saw the uptick in collisions in 2025, and that resulted in more collision-related customer injuries. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jamie.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. So we'll now move to the second part of 3 of this presentation. I'll provide an update on the progress of the Metro's safety management system. So before I do that, I wish to explain the foundation, the context of SMS, especially for our new board members. The board recently reviewed and approved our latest revision of Metro's agency safety plan. That is the document that's ultimately the foundation of how we go about making ourselves safer. It's a mandatory requirement to have that plan in place, and that's reviewed every year. There is also the risk reduction plan, which details our tactics in specific key areas such as bus collisions, as Jordan mentioned, roadway worker protection, and transit worker assaults. And it ensures the agency is working together to continually learn more, mitigate, and review our actions in those priority areas. There's a partnership between management, employees, unions, contractors, and also customers in some instances. The agency safety plan explains in some detail SMS, which is the framework we've adopted to keep Metro safe. It's a system and philosophy that's replicated and used in many different industries, from nuclear, oil and gas, and aviation. Having established it now 3 to 4 years ago, Metro is in the phase of maturing the framework to deliver a consistent, data-driven, process-based system to continually identify, assess, mitigate, and reduce safety risks in all areas of our business. Now, this slide and the next are not intended to be read word for word today, but instead I share them briefly to provide a sense of the scale and complexity of this implementation. This slide and the next will be familiar to board members as we've laid out an ambitious 3-year roadmap for SMS annually over recent years. SMS comprises of 4 elements on the left and the bottom there: policy, promotion, risk management, and assurance. And we will now dive deeper into those areas to understand what we've achieved in 2025. But before we do that, there's also a version of the same plan for 2026, 7, and 8. It's under continual review, this roadmap, as we reach milestones, but keep striving to mature and improve. The takeaway here is that there are multiple initiatives being delivered over multiple different departments across the agency intended to mature SMS. So now let's dive in a little detail, looking at achievements in 25 and how work continues this year. We will start with safety policy and promotion, and it makes sense to group those together. I've already mentioned the FTA mandated requirement to complete the annual review of our agency safety plan. Improvement of the plan never stops. Of note, I'm consistently asked by other chief safety officers across the country to share our plan as example of good practice. Following a baseline survey in 2022, last year we conducted a follow-up safety culture survey with MITRE, which is an organization with extensive respect and expertise delivering SMS in other industries. Results are being analyzed currently and will drive actions to improve employee reporting, trust in the system, and effective safety risk management in 2026. But the high-level takeaway is that we are making good progress. So that's really encouraging for the agency and the board. A huge win for the agency this year was the delivery of our first SMS training for employees. We have an SMS refresher training developed, as well as specific trainings to educate colleagues on both environmental and occupational safety and health hazards, and those will be rolled out this year. We've recognized the growth and improvement of our emergency management capabilities rooted in the creation of Metro's integrated command and communications center, which really is industry leading. And we also have a very strong collaboration with the many jurisdictional partners that we have to work with on the police and the fire side of the business. So what we're doing now is seeking an accreditation from an independent national accreditation program to become one of the few agencies in the country accredited outside the emergency management agencies themselves. Finally, just culture. This is a philosophy followed in many operations-based industries, such as healthcare and aviation, where management focuses on the system rather than the individual, reducing blame but increasing the ability to make constructive improvements to the system and performance. We continue to purposefully drip feed the principles rather than overwhelm the agency and not make any change. We're drip feeding the principles throughout the organization last year with policy changes and gradually balancing holding individuals to account with identifying and fixing the systemic root causes of incidents. We now have a toolkit which some departments will be trained on this year to apply the principles to their work with the intent of improving safety culture and performance. Before we dive into the detail on safety risk management, this slide captures an example of it in action. So what is safety risk management? Ultimately, it's using data to systematically reduce risk. And launched last year, Metro's life-saving principles clearly and simply define for our workforce the behavior we expect in order to mitigate the most common or the most serious safety risks we face as an agency. Those risks derive from our improved reporting, safety data management, and risk assessment processes. These principles help everyone from senior leaders all the way through to the front line, and they help us understand what matters most when it comes to safety at Metro. It's about creating a common language and a shared focus rooted in safety data. So now we move to the area of safety risk management and Metro's achievements in 25 and how the work continues this year. Keeping our staff safe on the roadway is an absolute priority for us. Metro has a mature roadway worker protection program that was established in 2010, and this year took advantage of an FTA roadway worker protection new rule to update our training and some of the rules and the quality of our overall program. Metro shared our roadway worker protection program with many other agencies who sought to replicate some of our practices. Training is now being delivered and is on track. The program's on track to launch in the spring. Transit, in many senses, is a rule-based, procedure-driven industry, and management and training of the rulebook has improved in recent years. Last year, we started the process to replicate the lessons and improvements learned on the rail side and transfer them over to bus. So we're looking to improve the bus rules now, having really made strides on the rail side. A tenet of SMS is employees taking personal responsibility and reporting hazards. Like any service model, whether it's ordering a pizza or delivering transit, trust grows if the response employees receive or a customer receives is professional, consistent, and regular. Last year, we launched an improved voluntary safety reporting program to enhance transparency, increase submissions, and strengthen Metro's culture of being open and recognizing risks early. Reporting last year actually increased by 20% from employees, significant improvement, and work continues through the Joint Labour Management and Safety Committee and other forums to build trust and reporting. Job hazard analysis is the industry standard process to risk assess specific tasks, whether it's replacing a piece of rail or replacing a bus engine, and systematically take steps to mitigate the risk that employees face as they are going about their work. The program evolved significantly in 2025, and we're now feeding that data into the broader SMS database. And training will run throughout this year to optimize the program. And in 2026, the sophistication of our data analysis will grow as we seek to more systematically consider and respond to human factors. On that topic, fatigue is a risk Metro faces every day, and just like any other transit agency, and we're continuing to move forward on that topic, seeking out technology that might assist us, as well as formalizing our policy. Significantly, Metro worked closely with the unions last year and finalized the fatigue management policy with restrictions on scheduling hours and support to improve reporting if you do feel fatigued, and more education, which will follow this year. The final element of SMS is safety assurance. And that's ultimately functions like investigations or operations oversight, assuring that the agency and all our departments are doing what we committed to do in order to reduce risk. For example, last year, Metro's fire marshal improved the quality of our facilities safety inspections, but we recognized that as an agency, we were identifying and implementing fixes, but not systematically going back to check they were continuing and working. In this vein, in 26, we intend to take our safety certification function to the next level, take a more robust, collaborative approach to our inspections between safety, operations, and infrastructure, and replicating best practice within and beyond transit to identify recurrent risks more swiftly and ensure consistent follow-through on mitigations. We developed a comprehensive emergency preparedness program, increasing the volume and the quality of emergency drills and training for both employees and our jurisdictional fire and police departments, which is really important to us. Next year, building on the success of our after-action review program and education of employees on safety investigations, we intend to increase the level of independent and collaborative investigations of major incidents to identify root causes and fixes earlier in the process. And lastly, moving into this year, the work continues to improve the quality and integrity of our data, which will allow us to focus more on leading indicators so we can intervene prior to incidents occurring. And there is a lot of discussion, of course, across the whole of society about AI. And while we have embarked on an initiative to utilize AI capabilities, ultimately progress is reliant on quality data, which will remain our focus in 2026. So that concludes my update on the SMS, the safety management system, and now I'll hand it over to the chief to provide an update on crime and public safety.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Good morning, Board Chair Santos, board members, Mr. Clark, Mr. Off. I'd like to thank everyone for their support, ongoing, for last year and this year. So I think the efforts have paid off. I do want to thank the detectives and the officers who've done a fantastic job, and our regional partners who also helped us, as well as our internal partners here in operations and here at Metro. All of that's contributed to, the decrease in crime we've been experiencing over the last couple of years. So I'll start the presentation. So our strategy, as everyone knows, we are problem-oriented policing. Some people call it root cause policing, but like I've said before, it's proven over time the most effective police strategy, in the United States. It works. It does reduce crime. And then, some of our projects, obviously we've increased our regional partnership. Last year, we added DC Housing Police to our partnerships as far as working the stations, and they're at Waterfront and Potomac Avenue, which are two stations that we've had some issues at, prior, and they've been really good partners along with MPD, Alexandria, Greenbelt, Hyattsville, as well as MWA. They've been all really good partners, and that has contributed to, our crime reduction as well. Recruiting, we're still, this year we kind of got ahead of the curve. Our attrition has been fairly constant. We've lost 20 officers to retirement, or some resigned in lieu of termination and other jobs. And that was consistent with what we lost in calendar year 23 as well. We lost, so it's kind of stabilized around 20 officers. But the good news is last year we hired 39 officers, so we got a net total of 19 extra officers. We have 11 graduating the academy next Friday on the 23rd, and then we've got 25 in a new class that we started in December. So we're looking, our goal is to hire 60 officers per year for the next 2 years, and we think if attrition remains about constant, then we'll be about where we are for our authorized strength. So, that's moving forward. And then, obviously point entry policing, we really did ramp up our enforcement of fares on bus this year. Our crisis intervention teams and community outreach, we've done pretty well with truancy enforcement. We did see a decrease of truants from 2024 and 2025, and we think that is because of the enforcement efforts. I think the kids know they can't hang out at Metro anymore, or we'll pick them up and take them to school. And then we are still working with the OAG on balanced and restorative justice program that they have here in the district. As you know, we started our training academy. That's going pretty well. We do have a cadet program. We have 6 cadets, so we're excited about that. We hope when they each reach the age of 20 and a half, they'll be able to turn over and become police officers. And then our youth advisory council continues to increase. We've got about 135 high school age students, in that. And then some of our indicators are, obviously our crime rate reduction, citations, reductions in assault, our clearance rates for our detectives. Banning, since we started in June, we've banned 436 individuals. The vast majority are for assaults. It's about 79%. Sex offenses account for about 13% of the persons banned. And then we have about 7% that are people that are repeat people that come back and, they're arrested again. Juveniles make up about 13%, so that's fairly consistent with what we thought in the beginning, and all of those are for, assaults where there's some type of serious injury or a mob style attack, because we kind of, adjust our policy on that. And then we, obviously, we have the SPOs that are still doing the train checks. They're at 26 stations in the district, and they ride out to Maryland and Virginia as well. And we also have them in parking garages where we've had a number of auto thefts that we've been, concentrating on trying to reduce. And then our, engagement, we've done hundreds of events this year, several big ones, and that seems to be going pretty well with our outreach, with the various communities that we serve. So the next slide. So this is where our reductions came in this year. If you look at it, we had pretty good success with aggravated assaults are down. Our arsons, they're up, from 3 to where we had 1 last year, but 2 of those are closed with an arrest. There's still 1 open. We did have 2 homicides this year. Both of them have been closed with arrests. One was out at Suitland Metro Station. Unfortunately, a young man lost his life during a robbery. And the other one was in Virginia at Potomac Yards, where a man was chased onto the tracks, unfortunately, by 2 individuals, and he was struck by a train and killed. But both those cases have been closed. had a really good year with robberies. Theft from auto and auto theft is still hanging in there for us. It's unacceptably high still. And we are trying to work with our partner agencies and trying to reduce that as well. Okay, next slide. And this is our Part 1 crimes. So we had 833 Part 1 crimes this year. And if you look at our crime rate, it's the lowest we've had in 25 years. So outside of the pandemic years, 2020 and 2021, it's our lowest Part 1 crimes that we've had. And, you know, the part of we do look at Part 2. We had a reduction in Part 2 crimes as well, about 14%. But Part 1s is the uniformed. We contribute to NIVERS, the FBI, and Part 1 crimes are the crimes that people are most likely to report. So the accuracy and the uniformity across the country is a little bit easier to understand what your crime trends are and that sort of thing. That's why we report that way. All right. And this is our crime rate. So our crime rate's based on 1 million rides. So this is the lowest crime rate we've had, you know, since before 2001. And then if you look at some of our Part 1 decreases, you know, rail, we continue to have a decrease on rail. Bus is the bigger one, where we've had a significant decrease on bus. You know, we put a lot of focus there on bus this year with our bus team, as well as our patrol officers. And this is our enforcement actions. You know, I think the officers and detectives have done a great job as far as, you know, the enforcement, you know, when you look at citations and arrests, but also when you look at the enforcement on bus this year, you know, we really ramped it up. And that's why I think we've seen the decrease in crime on bus. You know, we still have a ways to go, but, you know, I think we're pulling in the right direction. Tough part about bus is there's so many of them. You know, so we try to, you know, use our enforcement efforts where we have complaints as well as crime on bus and, you know, try to target those routes as best we can. These are our clearance rates. So the national averages, they're based on 2024 data because the FBI is always 1 year behind. They don't, when we report this year, they'll come out with the national averages in the summer. So we're always a year behind. So that's what we compare, all agencies compare to. So if you look at, you know, the work that the detectives and the officers have done, you know, we're well above all the national averages, you know, as far as our clearance rates go. So, you know, they do a really good job. Video plays an important role, not only for us, but for our partners in the region. You know, just recently, I mean, we've helped, you know, obviously DC with a couple of homicides that they've had here the last couple of months. Fairfax as well, Arlington, Prince George's County, you know, various crimes that we've been able to, you know, either capture with bus video or station video where the suspects entered. And what it ends up doing is a lot of the times they may be masked up when they commit the actual crime, but some of the images that we get, we have them unmasked. So that's a huge lead for a lot of detectives in the region, and it gives them something to go on. So we continue to work with the MIC. They've been great as far as that's concerned, and our detectives and, you know, our regional partners in helping closing other crimes throughout the region.
Great. Well, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Jordan, too. That concludes our safety briefing for the board. All four of us are here and available for questions.
Thank you very much. Great, very thorough presentations from all three. Thank you very much. I do have just a couple of quick questions. First of all, Jamie, for you, could you elaborate, talked about the fatigue management program, and I know that's also tied into the CBA. Could you talk a little bit more about that in terms of metrics for that, as well as sort of what's involved in that program?
So it's constantly evolving. And fatigue is what we would class as a human factor. And by definition, it's harder to define and measure. What we focus on is two things. Firstly, reporting. So we're really trying to drive up reporting. So we're empowering our employees to admit and say, look, I am fatigued and I need management to know that and help me make the right decision. The second part of it is if there is an incident, is we use software to analyze the schedule that individual involved in a bus accident or a rail violation. What was that operator's working history? And so we dig into that and we say, is there a possibility that they were fatigued? And then we cover that in the interview and then we establish with the operations or infrastructure management, are there things that, if that was a contributing factor, that we can learn and improve upon? And when it comes to the CBA, it's getting a common understanding with the unions that fatigue must be the priority, safety must be the priority, and overtime has to come second.
Okay.
And so it's a commitment to closely managing that when we know that those contributing factors do exist.
Great. Thank you very much. I do have one question for the chief, just as a follow-up. One of your slides looked at enforcement, 27% increase in enforcement actions. Could you talk just a little bit more about the relationship of that to the overall downward crime trend? I know there are a lot of things that go into the good, trend that we're seeing, but if you could address specifically the additional enforcement and what the relationship there.
Yes, I mean, I think it's well established, particularly, thanks to members of the board, Dr. Lowe in particular, Mr. Clark, when we were able to get the city council in DC to, amend the prior law that they had on fare evasion, helped us out considerably. And a lot goes into it. It's not only the writing of the citation or the summons, but gives us an opportunity to also, run individuals' names through a law enforcement database. And so we've cleared 916 warrants in the region this year just by doing that, which was an increase from 2024. We've also recovered 81 firearms too, as a reason, for doing that. So, and it shows too, it's not necessarily the enforcement action, which helps because you're taking an individual who's committed a violation of the law and stopping them and giving a citation, or you're making an arrest. But where it really, and I know people will argue with me on this, but it's seeing the visibility of the actual police officer taking the enforcement action, whether it's a contact or they're talking to somebody or they're writing a citation, that also has an effect on crime. It's hard to measure, but, I think it's almost like an omnipresence that, if they're of, their right mind, whether they want to take the risk of committing a crime while there's a police officer present or not, So I think that definitely helps, and I think the more activity that we have, I think the better visibility that we have, I think all that leads to, your crime going down.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Let me now turn to my colleagues first on the committee, see if there are any questions or comments. Yes, Director Weber.
Yeah, good morning. I just have a question for you, Mr. Johnson. Based on my background in healthcare, I really applaud that 20% increase in voluntary reporting of safety incidents. And I'm just wondering, is that what you expected to see in 2025? And what might you expect to see going forward as the just culture matures?
Welcome to the board. Healthcare and aviation are industries that we're really looking to the point where, I'm taking my team and other teams to speak to individuals from those industries to understand what not a blameless culture is, but a culture that openly takes responsibility and accountability for actions. We recognize that in transit as an industry, we can do a lot more to reach the levels that other industries are at when it comes to reporting and trust and compliance with a safe system. So really encouraged by the 20% increase in reporting. I think there's huge opportunity to go even further. When you speak to folks in aviation, they have hundreds of reports a day from staff, and we're not set up to that extent yet. But what that means is there's huge opportunity to get better. And as you can see, we're running a safe system now, so we can be even safer. And what that means to me is getting ahead of the incidents, tackling and taking action, tackling issues before the incidents occur. And that's something that we're moving towards. And I expect that to continue to grow. And the Safety Culture Survey has told us that, because trust and understanding of the principles is also growing.
Great question. Thank you. It's coming right out of the gate, asking like some of the most important stuff. Yeah. So I'll open it up to other board members. Dr. Lowe?
Thank you, Chair. Jordan, doubling back all the way back to bus performance, it seemed clear from your presentation that it comes down to collisions and near collisions. So do we know anything about the whole universe of like what's happening out there in terms of collisions and road safety that's not specific to mode? Like, is this a trend that's unique to bus, or is just everyone smashing into everyone more?
I don't think I've looked specifically at the trends in collisions.
I haven't either.
I do know is that traffic has increased. We see that through data collected by the Council of Governments and like collated and kind of private sector data. So that, in my mind, is a big core. You know, the more traffic you have, the more your risk increases of collisions.
We're doing like a 5-year look back here, though. So like it doesn't, you know, I know traffic went way down during the pandemic. Are we at an all-time high of traffic, or is this just like a more of like a gradual creep back to some kind of norm? I think it just merits a little more investigation, just because the trend's not great. I think I could benefit from more context in understanding if this is a really like an unprecedented problem that we need to think bigger about a solution to, or if it's just the world that we're in.
I have another presentation coming up in February where we're looking at the kind of service excellence quarterly results.
Yes, because of course this is going to impact
So that's
other
going to
metrics as
impact
well.
there. So I'm going to suggest maybe that's a good time where I can give a bit more kind of nuanced context around the trends in traffic and how that's been impacting that. So it also impacts service reliability and all of that.
Okay, I might do a little poking around too.
Great.
That sounds good. My other question is about just culture, and it's not. This isn't really a question. Just especially realizing that now that we have Director Weber, that there's probably a huge range of familiarity just amongst the board in what just culture is, and I have a sort of newfound awareness myself in how important it is. Like culture doesn't exist at all, like independently on its own. It's just created by groups of people. And leadership is really influential in both establishing and maintaining culture. So I think I would benefit. And the board as a group could potentially benefit in just thinking about, you know, as we perhaps work plan for next fiscal year, or like this doesn't have to be imminent, we should think about some kind of like field trip or field engagement that's related to learning more about just culture, but like also like immersing, like feeling what it would be to embody that at the board level and in how the board is conducting its business. I don't literally mean like, let's have a button making party where we like make buttons that say respect electricity and like all hold hands. Like, I'm sure there's like something we can do that's more substantive than that. Like that could be fun. but I'm sure I think there must be something substantive we could do. So maybe we could like brainstorm with staff or just think about as you, it's not my committee, so it's not my business, but just something to think about for work planning for maybe even next year.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Lowe. Other questions, comments from board members? Okay. Yes, General Manager Clark.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to publicly just really recognize the chief's leadership. He's very humble. Barely can get him in a photo out there, but the team has just done a great job. Obviously, there's a lot of layers to this. Our safety team, our operations team, all of our regional partners who are just fantastic, both on the federal, regional, local side. But the chief's leadership has been fantastic. The officers have such a great respect for the chief. He's done all of these roles in his career. And I just, really thought it'd be appropriate for me to recognize him publicly. The lowest crime year we've ever had in the history of the organization. And that just, like you said, that did not happen without leadership, and just really appreciate, Chief, all of you done. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And that wraps up this portion of it. But I have to say the chief does have a photo coming up here in just a few minutes. So it is coming around. And just to demonstrate our board's flexibility, the acting TSA administrator is not here, but we do have Ms. Sonia Proctor, who is the Director of Security Training and Exercises at TSA. And I would ask Ms. Proctor if she would like to come up and maybe make a few remarks. And then afterwards, we're going to have a photo. I'd ask the chief and Mr. Off, I believe, to come up afterwards. So come on forward. And if you have any remarks, you'd be welcome. Yeah, right here. Yes.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am honored today to be here, and our acting administrator, Ha McNeil, was called into a meeting this morning, so she's not going to be able to join us in time for this. So I have the honor this morning of presenting to WMATA the 5th Gold Standard Award for Excellence in Security. This is a very prestigious award. It is an award that takes a tremendous amount of work to be recognized for. This award is the result of absolutely outstanding scores on the BASE assessment. The BASE assessment it stands for Base Assessment for Security Enhancement. This covers 17 different security action items, and each of them have sub-bullets under them. But these items constitute a good, healthy security plan. WMATA has achieved with this award the most outstanding scores for 2025. This is the 5th award for WMATA. Their first was in 2009, then 2012, 2018, 2022, and now 2025. This is the first time ever that one system has received 5 Gold Standard Awards. This is quite an honor for me to be able to present this award. And I would like to be able to present it to General Manager Randy Clark.
Great. Well, let's go on up.
Board.
Yep.
Just maybe Randy and Walter. Keep that photo.
He might, hey, I gotta be careful. He might retire if people.
We do want the public to be able to see that and to recognize it. And I want to thank the board for their support, and to General Manager Clark, I want to thank you for your leadership, for your partnership, and for your commitment to security. Your security is over a tri-state area, so that's very unusual. So I know it's a joint effort between you, your team, and the board, but this is what joint efforts result in, this kind of award and recognition. I'm very proud to be here today to be able to do this. Thank you again.
Thanks.
I also have a letter from our acting administrator, Ha McNeil. I'll present you with that as well. So, and she does send her regards for not being able to make it here this morning. She was not sure whether she'd be able to get out of that meeting in time. Yes, that does happen.
We had a great tour with her at the control center.
Absolutely. She really enjoyed that tour. She talked about it for a long time afterwards. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, so thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing that photo and seeing the chief in the photo. So with no other items to come before the committee today, we do stand adjourned. The board will reconvene in executive session. So we are adjourned. Thank you.